Tokyo, how to ruin a city. Tokyo is one of the most astonishing cities ever built, the largest metropolitan area on Earth, an economy that briefly threatened to overtake the United States as the world's dominant financial power, a transit system so precise that train operators issue formal apologies if they run more than a minute late, a city that rebuilt itself from near total destruction after World War II and came back stronger than it had ever been. By any measure, Tokyo should be a model for the modern world. And yet, today, Japan is losing nearly 1 million people a year. Its birth rate is the lowest since records began in 1899. And the city at the center of it all, the city that was supposed to be the future, is projected to lose more than half its population by 2100. Tokyo didn't collapse. It optimized itself into decline. These are Tokyo's notes on how to ruin a city. Step 1. Pull the entire country into one place. Tokyo doesn't have a population. It has a gravitational pull. The Greater Tokyo area holds roughly 37 million people, nearly 30% of Japan's entire national population concentrated in a single commuter zone. And that share keeps climbing, because for decades, Tokyo has operated as a one-way valve. It pulls young people in from every corner of the country and offers almost nothing back. This wasn't engineered, it emerged. Tokyo is where the headquarters are, the universities, the jobs that matter. Japan's economy became so centralized that if you wanted to build a career, the decision was effectively made for you. You moved to Tokyo. That migration pattern, running for generations, has quietly hollowed out everything else. Drive through rural Japan today and you will see it. Villages where the youngest resident is in their 60s. Schools that closed after the last class graduated. Entire towns preserved in a kind of slow-motion abandonment. Japan now has roughly 9 million vacant homes, a figure larger than the entire population of New York City. Most of them left behind by people who moved to the city and never came back. 9 million. Here is the part that should unsettle you. The same city that drained the countryside of its young people turned out to be one of the worst places in the developed world to actually raise children. Tokyo is expensive. It is cramped. It is built around a work culture that leaves parents, especially mothers, almost no margin. Tokyo's fertility rate fell below 1.0 in 2023. The national replacement rate is 2.1. Tokyo is not replacing its own population. It is consuming it. Japan recorded fewer than 730,000 births in 2024, the lowest figure since records began in 1899. Deaths outnumbered births by nearly 1 million. The country lost more people in a single year than at any point in its recorded history. And that was the 16th consecutive year of population decline. Tokyo pulled everyone in, made it nearly impossible to have children, then watched the country begin to run out of people. That is how you start. Step 2. Build a culture that works people to death. Japan has a word, karoshi. It translates directly as death by overwork. The fact that a language needed a dedicated word for this particular cause of death should be enough to tell you something about how the problem developed. The first documented karoshi case was in 1969. A 29-year-old man in Tokyo died of a stroke after logging week after week of extreme overtime. His employers did not reduce his workload, they increased it. His death became the first of a named epidemic. It also became, in ways that were never intended, a template. Japan's post-war economic recovery was built on a work-first culture that treated exhaustion as a virtue and leaving the office at a normal hour as a form of disloyalty. The economy boomed. The culture calcified. Today, roughly 1 in 10 Japanese workers logs more than 80 hours of overtime every month. 1 in 5 is considered at serious risk of karoshi. The government now publishes an annual white paper on overwork deaths. There is a dedicated helpline called, without apparent irony, Karoshi 110. In 2022, nearly 3,000 suicide cases were officially recognized as work-related. And here is the statistic that sits at the center of all of this. Japan ranks last among G7 nations in productivity per hour worked. Workers are staying at their desks until midnight and producing less output per hour than any other major developed economy. The country built a culture of total dedication to work and received, in return, less actual work done per hour than Germany, France, the United Kingdom, or the United States. This matters for Tokyo specifically because Tokyo is where the culture runs at its most extreme. Some workers miss the last train home and sleep at capsule hotels rather than leave the office. The government's solution? A scheme called Premium Friday, which encouraged companies to let staff leave at 3 p.m. on the last Friday of each month, was met with such widespread non-compliance that it quietly disappeared from public discussion. When you build a city around the idea that a person's highest purpose is to work themselves into the ground, you do not get a thriving economy. You get a country in the process of running out of people willing to be born into it. Step 3. Watch the solution walk past. Close the door. By any straightforward analysis, Japan has one obvious lever available to address a shrinking, aging population: immigration. Other countries facing the same demographic pressures have used it. Germany used it. Canada built an entire national identity around it. The United States has run on it for 250 years. Japan's response has been to pay its own citizens to move to the countryside instead. Since 2023, the Japanese government has offered families in the Tokyo metropolitan area up to 1 million yen, around $7,700 per child, if they relocate to rural areas. The program first launched in 2019. In that first year, 71 families took the offer. By 2021, the number had grown to 1,184 households. The government's target by 2027 is 10,000 people per year. The Tokyo metropolitan area holds 37 million. Rather than meaningfully open the country to foreign workers who could fill labor shortfalls and stabilize the demographic trajectory, Japan moved in the opposite direction. Foreign residents currently account for less than 3% of the population, a fraction of what comparable economies carry. In 2025, Japan deported foreigners at a rate 30% higher than the year before, even as labor shortages deepened across construction, healthcare, and agriculture. The government that took office in late 2025 signaled that controls would tighten further. Japan is recoiling from immigration before any meaningful level of immigration has taken place. The solution is available. The door stays shut. The uncomfortable mathematics. Tokyo is one of the greatest cities ever constructed. The logistics alone, moving 37 million people daily with a transit network that measures delays in seconds, represent an achievement that most cities cannot conceptualize. The food, the architecture, the safety, the extraordinary operational precision of the place. By almost every quality of life measure, Tokyo is remarkable. And the Tokyo Metropolitan Government's own projections show the city's population falling to 7.1 million by 2100, a 53% decline from its peak. More than half the city, gone within the lifetime of a child born there today. That is not the forecast of a critic. That is the city's own arithmetic. You cannot fix a birth rate crisis with a relocation program that moves a few thousand people to the countryside. You cannot reverse a demographic collapse by demanding that your remaining workforce sacrifice more of the hours that might otherwise have gone toward building a family. And you cannot solve a problem caused by concentrating everything in one place by continuing to make that one place the only place worth being. The trains will keep running on time. The city will keep functioning with extraordinary precision. And somewhere in a Tokyo office right now, a 35-year-old is staying 3 hours past when they should have gone home, in a country that last year recorded nearly 1 million more deaths than births. Tokyo, the gold standard for turning a world-class city into a cautionary tale, one bad decision at a time.